back and record this for our class to be posted, and this one and Mondays will be posted today, so that if you've been waiting on those, you can get caught up. Okay, so I'm going to start screen sharing, and I'm going to screen share first our Canvas announcement for today, just to kind of put everything back into perspective. So you got your Zoom connections, and again, that will be, I will add the recorded video here. And so Ryan and I were out working yesterday, and so he had made the comment that having these out here were easy, but they got, or were helpful, but they got confusing with all the back and forth chatter, hard to follow when he was just trying to focus on the lesson itself. So, but he was finding them helpful. So that was nice to hear that. And Miguel, I hope you are watching those, but feel free, like when we're having classroom discussions or somebody sharing about what happened to Great Aunt Edna or whatever, you can fast forward those in, you guys aren't seeing my screen, hang on. Yes, I am sharing my screen. Are you seeing the donut right now? Okay, so down here at the bottom, if you're not familiar, and I just assume everybody is at this point, but there's a setting, a little gear on the bottom of a video on YouTube, because these videos are hosted on YouTube. So when you get there, you should have these controls. You can set the playback speed to 1 1/4 or 1 1/2. So when people get to chatting about whatever, feel free to kind of zoom past that. But when you start to see the curriculum come back up, please zoom back in, and that should help you. I take the time to explain as we're going through. So on Monday, we started lesson 3, animate the position, scale, and rotation of an object. We talked about adjusting the pacing and timing of your animation as to when things came in, and for how long it lasted. And we also animated the transparency of a filter when we made the lady's face blurred and then come to clarity. Do you guys recall those issues or those steps that we took? Okay. I know, Toby, you were out, so feel free to go back and look at that. However, okay, and so now y'all are seeing the Adobe Animate book. Okay, so when we got started in the textbook, one of the first things we did was, Miguel, we did an overview of our Animate screen. And so we had the timeline down here at the bottom, and we had our layers brought in. We had, in the first chapter, or in the first lesson, we had created folders so that we could group assets of similar types. And so you can do that with the little folder right there at the top of the timeline. So that's where the man and woman is, and that's where the car is. Let me delete my left car because I was doing that yesterday. So this is where we were at, and on Monday, we animated the cityscape that came in. So remind me, guys, how we brought the city in. I need one person to chime in, please.
Tweening.
Tweening. What does tweening mean?
It just means in betweening.
I don't even know.
Okay, it means in betweening. And Brecken doesn't know. So what we are
We're not recording.
what we are doing is it's just like keyframing in Final Cut. Remember, in Final Cut we would say at this point I want the object to be here, and at the 1 second mark, and then at the 1 minute mark, I want it to be full size. And we would have an object actually kind of zoom into the screen. Okay. Or we would say, I want it to be transparent, and then I want it to be fully seen by frame 100 in Final Cut. We set keyframes. And so that's initially what tweening is. We've set a first point, maybe that we want it to be transparent, which is what we did right here with the cityscape. The city starts at frame 12, 11 or 12. And so I am sitting actually on that object. And then by frame 25, you can see on the timeline that there's a keyframe there. And so by 25, it's actually fully visible. And we did that by creating that alpha, using the alpha feature. And then at frame 30, it started to move upwards with positioning, and we just moved it up the screen using the X and Y axis settings, or the position settings. And so when you look at your timeline, I don't know if I can zoom this camera in. When you look at your timeline, you can see the keyframes on the timeline and see that we did specific settings there. So we set the beginning and we set the ending point, but the computer did the math calculations between that start and end point to tell the computer, okay, it needs to be 10% visible, 15% visible, 20% visible, until it became fully visible. We didn't have to go in and do that on every single frame. Okay, so that's the in-between stage. That's what tweening means, in between. And so I know y'all know that in your head, but thinking about how to speak that is a little different. So tweening just means the in-between. And so the in-between from beginning to end, and how we see the visibility or how we see the position change is what that's talking about. Okay. Any questions about tweening at this point and what that means? Because you're going to read tweening a lot in Animate, because it's all about animation and making things move or making a character move. In this case, we're dealing with objects, not an arm or a mouth going from a frown to a smile. Right, Carlos? That in-between stage is what we're working through. Okay? So we have the cityscape, and we worked on that on Monday. And so our city came in and moved up. And then the man and woman were there. And as the man and woman came in at about frame 23, the woman was in blur, but the guy was clear. So as it moves along, we applied a filter to make the woman's face. Oh, did we get that far on Monday? Did we make the woman's face clear on Monday? Did I
think we did.
I thought so.
I don't know.
Okay, let me back up here. Whoops. Okay, on the woman's face. So along about frame 120 on the woman's layer, go there with me if you will. And I'm going to right click, insert keyframe.
Oh, there.
Okay, when I insert keyframe, I'm going to.
Ms. Stevens, you stopped sharing your screen.
Okay.
Good job, Carlos.
Yep. Okay, so when I insert on 120, frame 120, I right-clicked and did Insert Keyframe. And I'm going to go to Filter. And when I've clicked on her, I have my effects over here on the right. I'm just setting a keyframe to say leave it at 20 at that point, and I'm going to go to frame 140. Insert keyframe. And I can do filter. And I don't actually have to define what filter I want to apply here. I can still just do it in my properties, but I wanted you to kind of notice that there were those options down there. So when I click on her and she has the boxes around her, I can make the blur down to 0. So now between 120 and 140, she becomes clear. And what happens between 120 and 140 is tweening. So if I move back to about frame 100 and I play, you see she's blurry. And between 120 and 140, her face becomes clear. Okay, so applying that filter. So sorry we didn't get that done on Monday. I thought we had done that part. Okay, so does that make sense to everybody? Just applied a filter. And I set a keyframe to say, just like in Final Cut when we worked in it, we said, at this frame, I want you to do some key feature. And so I set it at 120 to stay, because between 120 and 140 is when I wanted that change to occur. Can somebody tell me what would happen if I had not set the keyframe at 120 to be stable?
It won't be this. It won't be the same.
It won't be the same, but can you explain how it would be different if I didn't have that keyframe there?
No, Carlos got it.
Carlos has it. Way to pass it to a friend.
It would stay blurry and it wouldn't sharpen, I think.
Okay. Anybody else got a thought?
I got one.
Okay, Toby.
Because I had to do this with Final Cut. If you're talking about the one that keeps it blurry in the middle, it's because if you didn't do that, automatically once it became blurry, it would start losing the blur instead of keeping the blur until the point that you want it to start clearing up.
That's exactly right. So if I did not set that keyframe at 120 to tell it to hold the blur till here, and I set the filter at 140 to be clear so that we could see her face without a blur, the blur would have actually started shifting from the first frame of the woman. So on frame 1, she was set to be blurry at 40%. And had I not set that keyframe at 120, from the beginning frame to 140, she would have continually become clear. Does that make sense? The blur would not have been there through the whole span. She would have been, over the course of time, becoming clearer and clearer as it played along. Okay, so that keyframe at 120 held the blur to that point and said, keep it blurry till here. And so from 120 to 140 is where I wanted that effect to happen. And so I set it to hold there and went to 140. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, great. Thanks for the thumbs up. That really helps me. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do as we look through this is we have the cars coming in. So we get down here, the cityscape has moved, we've set the blur for the lady to come clear. And so then we have these 2 cars coming in. But if you remember from our original, as I'm playing the original ending video, so you can see kind of again where we're going as your reference. So we're playing along here, and here we have 3 cars coming in. Oh my, we're missing a car. Okay, so I'm coming back over here to my working file. And so. What, Brecken?
The insert of the left car.
Yes, thank you. That's what we're gonna do. So, can somebody tell me how I can add the car in?
Go where it says left underscore. Oh wait, you have to add. You have to add a new layer.
Yes, have to add a new layer. So how do I go about adding a new layer?
Go to the file thing, but I don't remember.
No, tell me, go to what file thing?
Like where it says add a new layer by the file and delete layers. I think.
Okay, the little sticky note, the new layer
Yes.
icon. Okay, right at the very top left-hand corner of your timeline, there's the new layer button, looks like a sticky note. Okay, where do I need to be, Brecken, to do that?
You need to drag it in the middle or under the car area folder.
Okay, so if I click on the middle car, okay, remember when I insert a new layer, it goes above whatever layer I'm clicked on. Do y'all remember that? Okay, so on middle, if I'm clicked on middle car, my new layer is going to go right above that. So I click the new layer icon and it gives me, in this case, layer 7. I'm going to double click layer 7 and the other one is middle car, right car. So I'm going to make this left car. And remember your names, they won't have spaces in them. Okay. Sorry, Caleb is trying to join us. Okay, so we've added the new layer. And then if I look up to the right in my libraries panel, you should find an image that says car left. Okay. I'm going to move my playhead. I think they wanted us to do this at about 75, frame 75. So if you will move your playhead to frame 75, and I'm going to insert a keyframe. Okay. This is a different method of inserting than we did the other day with the boardwalk. With the boardwalk, I just drug the objects onto there and then I changed their starting space by getting the double-sided arrow and sliding that along. This time I'm going to the frame that I want it to start at. And I'm going to bring the car onto the stage. But as I look at the car left over here on the library panel, I have some different icons. Okay, and so I can't remember if we looked at those on Monday or not, so I want to review that a second. On your library panel, we have the city BG, which was the city background. We have double identity, which is the logo coming in. And if you look at the icons beside those look like picture logos or picture icons. Okay, so that's exactly what they are. They're just pictures. They're just assets that we're going to use. Then I have bottom, back, car left, car middle, and yeah, car middle. And those have a different symbol on them or an icon. What does that mean? Does anybody know why it looks different and it looks different than car middle base?
Wasn't it because it's a different type of thingy? That thing that I can't remember what it's called, but
Yes, it's the different thingy.
yeah, that thingy. What's it called?
Okay, that icon that goes along with the bottom, back, car left, and car middle is a symbol. And if you recall,
Yeah, that thingy.
Yeah, that thingy, that technical term. There are 3 different types of symbols. One is a movie symbol, one is a button, and one is a graphic. Okay, those are the 3 different types of symbols. And so the bottom, back, the car left, and the car middle are all movie symbols. So I want you to learn to look at those icons and recognize them, just like you recognize an icon for Word, or you recognize an icon for Animate or for PowerPoint or whatever. These are the icons that go along with this particular feature. And so we've turned these into movie symbols. Movie symbols allow us the most interactivity so that we can do more things with them. And movie symbols are also used for video projects. A button has very little that you can do with it. You can, if you think about a button on a website, like when you hit the send button on an email, when you click over it or hover over it, you know, it can kind of highlight or change colors. That's about what you can do with a button. The graphic really just allows you to keyframe it or to add transparency to it, but there's not a whole lot you can do with a button. I'm sorry, with a graphic interactivity wise. Okay, so those are the 3 different types of symbols. And so when you look at the car middle base, if you see that, notice the icon to the left of car middle base, that's a graphic. Okay, that's a graphic object versus a movie object or movie symbol, excuse me. Okay, Caleb's joining us. All right, and so looking at those symbols, just beginning to recognize what you're seeing over there is helpful. So we're going to take the car left, and I'm going to drag it onto, what is this middle area called in my screen where I'm putting these images and assets?
The stage.
Stage, thank you. So I am dropping the left car on the stage, and if you look at your timeline, you will notice that now it resides from frame 75 where I started it and goes forward, but nothing to the left in front of that. So that's a different method of bringing in clips or assets to your timeline than what we did with project 1. Okay. You can do it either way. You can bring everything in at frame 1 and then adjust the timing. But as your project gets longer, if you can kind of think through that, as your project gets longer, you're going to see that you're going to be moving a lot further down the road. So just like in Final Cut, when we would move our playhead where we wanted an asset to come in, that's what we're doing here. But instead of moving our playhead and dragging it or using the insert feature, here we insert a keyframe to say, hey, I'm starting something here. Does that make sense? All right. So just trying to match it to something that we've already looked at and seen. So the car comes in and the car's here. We are going to start the car at 75. And it is a symbol asset. And so we're going to set the car's position at about 700. So I'm going to go back to my properties panel. And while I'm on that left car layer, I'm going to set the position to 710 and 488. Okay, so when I move my playhead a little more forward, you can see that it's closely aligned with the cars that are there. I may choose to go back and bring that down, and I need to go back to do that on frame 75. I may choose to bring that down just a little bit because I feel like that was a little high. Okay. So then as I just kind of move my playhead back and forth from about 65 to about 90, I can see those other 2 cars coming in, and I want this car to be proportionally right and perspectively right. So which means I want it to line up and I want it to be about the same size as the other cars. I want it to feel like it fits. Okay. But right now my car just comes in and it sits there. What else do you notice about the car? Morning, Caleb. Anybody else notice anything about the car?
Isn't the middle car behind it?
Yeah, it should be, right?
Oh, do you have to put the left car underneath the middle car?
I do. So when I'm sitting here watching my finished project, right about frame 75, which is where we just added our left car, I'm starting there. And so we notice that that left car not only comes in, but it comes in from transparency of nothing to full transparency, and it moves. And also when you look at it, the middle car is in front of the left car. Does everybody see that? The middle car is in front of the left car versus what we're working on here, where the left car is just there and then the middle car is actually kind of tucked away, hidden behind the left car. So if I were in Final Cut, how would I fix that?
You would put it.
I don't.
Okay, Stephanie, go ahead.
You put it on top of the. Stack them on top for the one that shows.
Okay, so in this situation, what would I do?
Is it what I said earlier?
Yes, Brecken.
Can I say?
Sure.
You put the left car in the middle.
Okay, so how do I do that?
You click and hold, and then you drag your mouse.
Okay, on the left car layer, if I click and hold on that layer in my timeline, on that header, I can drag that down. It gives me a little black bar, and I can drag that down between the left car and the middle car, or between the middle car and the right car, excuse me. So now it's middle car, left car, right car. And so then when I look at that, my left car is still there, but my middle car is now in front of my left car. It comes in over the top of. Easy enough? In chapter 1, we brought those images in, and we had photo 1, 2, 3. And so the one that was on top was the one that was seen as we played across the timeline. Same thing here, same thing from Final Cut. So what we've learned in Final Cut, as far as stacking and layers and keyframing, all of that is the same terminology. It's the same principles that we're seeing here in ANIMATE. Do you guys see that as we talk about keyframing and as we're talking about our layers and we're talking about visibility of objects? Okay. So I'm just building on what we've already learned, just applying it in a new environment. So you guys know then that we've got to make this car go from transparent to visible. And that happened in the final video project. Again, I'm just going to go back here and reference this for you. Okay. So in 75, we had the middle car. We could see the middle car clearly, but we couldn't see the left or right. So by 80, we're starting to see the left car. And then about 85, that right car comes in and they kind of come forward. Okay. So let's work on the transparency first. Okay. So by, let's see, by 90, by frame 90, the left car is totally visible. So from 75 to 90, we're going to make that adjustment. So I'm going back to my working file. And so at 75, where the left car starts, if I click on the left car object, I get my properties panel. And let's see, under color effect is where we did that. Does anybody remember what we chose when we worked with the lady's face and the cityscape? Or not the lady's face, I'm sorry, the cityscape, to make it come in and be visible from nothing?
Alpha.
Alpha. Very good, Brecken. All right, Caleb. Today is the day I'm recording for National Board, so I was wondering if I could get you to turn on your camera this morning, sir. Okay, with that chosen, under color effects over on the right, I'm choosing alpha. Thank you, Brecken. And alpha, I'm going to set that down to 0 on my left car layer. Okay. And then on frame 90, I'm going to right click and insert a keyframe. And again, clicking on that left car. At that point, what do I want the visibility to be? Help me, Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda. At frame 90, I want it to be fully visible. So what do I want my alpha setting to be at?
100%.
So I'm just going to slide that alpha slider over to 100%, and by 90, the car is going to come in and be fully visible. So there we go. Hang on. I did not want to insert a keyframe there. Whoops, teacher error. I just wanted to click on frame 90. So undo your keyframe, Command Z, love Command Z. Undo your keyframe by frame 90. I'm just clicking on frame 90 and I want the alpha to go there.
It's pouring now.
Is it?
Yes.
That didn't stick.
Mr. Stevens, I'm sorry. I'm on my computer, so I don't have a camera with it.
Okay.
And sorry, I thought I was speaking before, but I guess I wasn't. It wasn't connected to my microphone.
Remembering to turn that mic on. Okay, what am I doing?
Carlos can help.
Well, Brecken, I bet you can help.
Why am I suddenly the IT guy?
I know, really.
Because you know more than me.
You've already done it, Brecken.
Yeah, no, I've done the whole lesson, but I forget easy.
I've animated before, but Adobe Animate still confuses me. And
Oh, you know what
I'm
I
not
need
used
to
to it.
do? What do I have to do to create a tween?
Oh,
Oh, Brecken.
you right click on the layer
Uh-huh.
and then you add tween.
Yes, create motion tween. It's not going to do that for me without me telling it to create a tween. You remember that?
Now I do.
Ah, remember that, Toby?
Hello, Toby.
Not a bit, but I'm going with it.
Oh, that's right. You weren't with us on Monday. Oh, I'm clicking the camera.
Neither
that.
was I.
Okay, so create motion tween. Then on 90, with my object, whoops, I got to start back here at 75. At 75, I want it to be transparent. At 90, I want it to be 100%. There we go. Now we're cooking with oil. All right,
Wait, cooking with oil, like car oil, or
like frying oil. Now we're frying.
oh.
All right.
I love frying my French fries with car oil. It's like my favorite thing.
Oh, yeah,
What?
very crispy. Okay, so creating that motion tween, that's the step that I was getting in a hurry and bypassing, okay? So creating that motion tween allows the car to go from transparent to visible. In my mind, that happens a little too quickly. So I'm going to move that keyframe down to about 100. And at 100,
Bada bada.
so on frame 90, I'm going to right click and choose to clear that keyframe. And at 100, I'm going to go back. And right around 100, frame 100, I'm going to click on it and make the alpha full. So then it kind of fades in with the other cars. Still happens a little fast, but it's okay. All right. So then the next thing we've got to work on is the position of that car. So now we've got to keyframe its movement. Okay, did everybody get the keyframing taken care of?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, I thought the Wi-Fi knocked out or
Yeah,
something.
no, I was scared. Everyone went quiet.
Yeah, I thought the Wi-Fi knocked out.
We'll make you think something really crazy happened, won't we? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, sorry, I was referencing the book so that I was making sure that I was staying in the right track of where we should be. So between 75 and 100, we changed the transparency, and now we're going to move the left car from behind the big car and kind of pull it out to where it is now. So I'm going to change the position of the left car. And if you click on the car, I'm at frame 75. And I'm going to move it just to the back. And I'm going to set it at 607 and 545. So I'm going to change the position 607 and the Y position to 545. Okay, that's its ending point. So that should be not done at 75. That should have been done at 100. So at 100, I want the position to be 607 and 545. Prior to that, so if I go back to frame 75, I want the car to be smaller than that. So, smaller than that. So at 75, I want the scale of that car, and I'm going to use free transform. And so that's your third button down on your timeline. It looks like a picture frame with an arrow on it. I'm going to make my car smaller.
Yeah. Boring.
And move it back. Okay. By frame 100, I'm going to pull it forward a little bit and change its position to there. And when I start to move it, I see this, mine is green because that's the color for my layer, but mine is green. I start to see a little green line form. Yours may be pink, or it may be orange or purple or blue. So yours may not be the exact same color as mine. But at 75, I've actually got my starting point at 720. And my Y position at 500. And then by frame 100, I'm at the 645 at 545. Okay. And you can create those. This is a motion path. This is where it's coming. It's going from that point to this point. And when you look at that motion path, you think, well, gee, that green dotted line is in front of my car. If you're looking at my screen, you can see that. That green dotted line is in front of my car. Well, that orientates to this origination point. Okay, you see the dot in the center? If you've clicked on it and you have the frame around it, you have the white dot in the center saying that this is the anchor point for this object. So when I create a path, or if I move that point of origin, it's going to shift. So if I move it up here to the top and then I play that, it's moving at a different location than where it did a while ago. Okay. Now it's coming down instead of kind of rising up. Okay. So you can create a motion path by taking an object, get on the middle card. And if I clicked on the middle card, you can see the motion path they chose. It's coming kind of down and to the right. And as you watch it, you can kind of see that happen. It comes down and forward. Okay. So you can create those by clicking and dragging. Okay, so now we have our left card in there. Is everybody okay with that? All right.
Yep.
So we didn't get very far today. Changing the path of the motion and swapping tween targets. I'm going to let you guys go through those on your own. You get to deal with a rocket and an alien. So you're going to open up another file to do that, and it's about tracking the motion path.
Yeah, that was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't like it that much.
It talks about what I was just talking about the point of origin.
Yeah.
So that is the point of origin. So how something attaches to the motion path and where its center point of gravity is. Think about your center point of gravity, usually right about your belly button. So if you were to fall, the first thing that's going to hit something is your middle section. Okay, that's what gravity's pulling on the most. So I did this with maybe with the guys the other day when I met them separately. When you hold up your phone, when you're looking at your phone, and so can you guys see my phone, or are you just seeing the screen? You're seeing the screen. Okay, so seeing me, when right now the center of gravity of my phone is the middle, so the origin is right here. So if I spin something or I move something, it happens around that origin point, okay?
Drop your phone.
No. So if I click on the middle and I move the point of origin down here to the corner, then as it moves around that point. Does that make sense? If I click here, and I move it, it tilts around that point. So that's the idea of the point of origin. And so now when I move it, it moves from that point. It swings, okay? So that's the idea of the point of origin. And so when you're looking at that white dot in the center of an object, if you were to rotate it, if you were to change the perspective or anything like that, it's all happening around wherever that white dot is, that point of origin, okay? So that's what you're gonna see there. Any questions about what we've talked about so far?
No.
Okay, so adding a layer, let's recap. We've added a layer in, we've renamed that layer. We started inserting at a keyframe instead of starting at frame 1. We moved to
You supposed to be sharing your screen?
no, you're just seeing me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I'm just recapping.
Okay.
What else did we talk about today?
I don't even remember.
We did transparency, like with the alpha.
Alpha tool.
We did movement, like how to move them with keyframes.
Okay, how to move with
Wait, who's talking?
Caleb.
How did he know? Because he wasn't here.
No, I was here.
He's been here. He just he doesn't have a camera with his computer.
Yeah.
Oh, you can buy one.
Yeah, I'm poor.
So we talked about the alpha key and how to make something come in. We had actually looked at that. We looked at a filter with the lady's face with the blur. What else?
Or just put my face in it. The alpha.
Yes. Kayla mentioned the alpha. Bless you. Miguel, what's you learned today?
What's the question?
What's one thing you learned today?
Well, I learned that Adobe is not that easy.
Yeah, same.
No, it's a different environment from Final Cut, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay. So Miguel, if there is something that I need to help get you caught up with, the quizzes for chapter 1 and 2 are locked. So at the point that, well, you need to work on projects lessons 1 and 2. And then at the point that you've got questions, then you can communicate with me through text or whatever. Okay?
Yeah, I'll just have to review all the lessons and get
Okay.
everything down.
And then I need to see your bright shining face in our classes, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Carlos, any questions for today? All right, Brecken? Toby, you doing okay?
I think he's lagged out.
He looks frozen there. No
The
wonders if,
storm hit him.
yes, it's raining hard here. I can hear it outside. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I think I got signal again.
Okay.
I was kicked outside because so I don't have headphones.
Oh,
So
You got kicked out the house?
so do you guys have any questions or what was one away from?
so if you see like me covering up with a pink blanket, don't judge.
You got kicked out
This
of
is
the
my
house.
All
this
right.
is my wind. This is my wind protection.
You got kicked out of the house.
Protection.
Okay, I hope that recorded all of that. I don't know. All right, so I've turned off my national board camera recording, so I'm done with that for this morning. Thank you guys for participating in that, but I'm not through teaching the lessons, so that was just kind of a way for me to end that activity there. We've got about 6 minutes left. Creating nested animations is the next thing in the chapter.
I'm already done.
Cool.
All
Sorry,
I
Mr.
need to
Stevens,
do
if I
is
would,
just follow along.
That goes into using your other files. I'm not going to open that. Let's see. Okay.
sorry,
Easy-
Mr. Stevens, if I would have known you were doing like a national board thing, I would have used my phone so you could see me.
That's okay. I think that's okay because that actually kind of helps show that we're dealing with technology and not everybody has access. So I don't
So
think.
what is the camera for?
I'm working, Brecken, on my national board, and I'm not sure. So those of you who are going to be returning students, I have until the 30th to decide. I am national board certification is a professional development deal. I achieved national board certification 9 years ago, and you have to go through everything that you do. And you look at what you're teaching, why you're teaching it, what's the benefit to the student, how is it helping learning, and if it's not benefiting the student, if it's not achieving a certification, if it's not moving a student forward, if it's classified as busy work, then you get rid of it. And so 9 years ago, I guess, I went through that process, and it really changed the way I teach as far as not assigning busy work, not assigning things, and not staying on a topic for too long. So the things that I present in class and the way I present things in class are a direct result of me going through national boards 10 years ago and tying everything to a meaning. Why are we learning Adobe Animate? Because there are animators in the real world. Why are we learning Animate now? Well, because we've already experienced Final Cut, and so you guys have references to keyframing, and you guys understand maybe tweening is a new word, but you understand the process because we've done that in Final Cut. So we're teaching Animate now because next year, those of you who are returning will be working in Premiere. You'll be working in all the Adobe products. So by using Animate this year, it's kind of a fun way to wrap up the year, but it's also a launch pad to next year when we're doing all Adobe products and not using Final Cut. So National Boards is about what I'm teaching, why I'm teaching it, and when I'm teaching it, and what is the benefit to the student. And so this year, I was supposed to renew. And then we had COVID-19. So I have until the 30th to decide whether I'm going to use these videos, because 2 of the entries I have to video. 2 of the entries I just have to write and reflect about what I do, why I do it, how I've improved, or what's changed over the last 10 years. So if you can think back 10 years ago, that makes all of you guys like 6, 7, 8. 10 years ago, we weren't using drones like we're using now. 10 years ago, we didn't have online teaching systems like this. 10 years ago, technology was a lot different. Our cameras were different. Our audio was different. The way we delivered instruction was different. And so I've continued to adapt and change to software. I've continued to do professional development. Working on my second master's, how does that impact what I do in the classroom? How do I take what I'm learning in those classes and utilize it to impact my students? How does sitting on committees at the school impact what I share with you guys? By sitting on some of the different committees at school, like the Safe School Committee, I listen to you guys talk about things that happen in the parking lot. I listen to you guys talk about things that happen on the bus. With all the construction that we've had around our campus, there are safety concerns there for not only our students, but our staff and for the safety of the building. And so by being a member of that safety committee, I can share your concerns that I've heard in those safety committee meetings. And that allows us to put more cameras on buses, which I know y'all just love, putting more cameras around campus. So when y'all have those car accidents out in the parking lot, we can capture that footage and we can see who was at fault, who didn't yield. We can also see who's speeding through the parking lot. So I know most of you guys are bus riders, so that doesn't really impact, but overall it helps the safety of our campus. And so those are things that what I learned from the classroom I use there, and what I learned there I bring back to the classroom and I can share with you guys. So National Board is about all of that, and it's just about me evaluating myself and working to be a better teacher for my students. And so anyways, with that said, this year was my year to renew, or actually next year, but I was starting the process this year. And so I have to have 2 video recordings of me teaching and how I teach and why is it timely. And then I have to do 1 entry that is about 4 topics. So I've chosen technology, community involvement, professional development, and something else. I forget what the 4th one is. And so I have to write 4 pages about each of those 4 things and why they're important. And then 1 video has to demonstrate my teaching and the way I interact with students. And 1 has to reflect on technology and the use of technology in the classroom. Well, we've got that all over the place. And then the last one is a reflection about what I've learned and how I've changed and how I perceive using that in the future. So it's about a 20 to 30 page project when I'm done, because not only do I have to video it, but I have to, and so I may be asking you guys to write, actually I will be asking you guys to write, what do you think it's like? And when I did the Zoom class, back when my daughter was sick, when we were still in the classroom, if you guys remember, I came back and I said, hey, can you guys write a summary about what that was like for you? Because I was going to use that for National Board. Well, guess what? Now everybody's doing Zoom. So while I was unique at the time, teaching class online like that, that was one of my technology, that was going to be my technology entry. While that was unique at the time, now teachers across the nation are using Zoom to teach. So it's not so unique now. So anyways, I will be asking you also to write. That will probably be Friday's, or tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow's activity. So check Canvas for that activity. So I will be asking you to write, what is life like doing class from home? How is Zoom impacting your learning? Is it beneficial? Is it not? What do you think?
Boring.
I know, Brecken, I know. Is it?
I second that statement.
Yeah, I'd much rather be in the classroom, I promise you.
I wouldn't.
I would much rather be interacting with you guys live instead of FaceTiming it. But
Stinks in the classroom.
and then I'm just going to ask if there is something or some way that I have helped you guys as a teacher maybe not necessarily in the classroom, because sometimes teachers do things and I'm oblivious. If I've done something that's benefited you outside of the classroom, or if you took something that you learned in the classroom and you applied it somewhere else, if anything like that has impacted you guys, I would greatly appreciate you sending me an email or mailing me a card or a note that says something like that. I'm not above begging. I have to turn in artifacts. I have to say this impacted that student's life because, and so I'm looking for things to write about in that 20 to 30 pages I've got to write. It's due by June 20th. And if I choose to forego it because of this COVID, it'll be due next year. But I'm still going to use some of the things we're doing this year. So I will watch this video that I just recorded, see if it does what I wanted it to do for that assignment or for that entry. But yes, if there's something that I've done that has impacted your life, or if you've learned something in the class that you've taken and used another way, if you could write that and send that to me in an email or a card, you can send it to the school and I can get you that address. I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Because those kind of things are things that I can use to write about. So, and teachers don't generally ask for those things, and I wouldn't ask for that except I need some artifacts for my national board. What else? Friday we will finish lesson 3, but there's not a whole lot left for me to talk about in 3. It uses the alien and the rocket ship, which are files in your lesson 3 folder. And so it's just talking about that orientation that I was talking about with my phone a minute ago and how that works. So I would appreciate it if you guys would go out and look at that between now and Friday and work on just understanding that better. And then finishing out lesson 3. Lesson 3 quiz will be available on Friday and it will be due by Monday. Lesson 3 quiz will be available on Friday and it will be due by Monday. Okay. Any questions about that? But we will finish up lesson 3 on Friday. I knew today was going to be a little slower paced because I was trying to record and I wasn't sure. So I wanted to keep the topics kind of limited. Because I had actually thought we'd get through 3, but when I realized I was going to be videoing, I thought, no, it'll be a smaller section. Because I'm only allowed to use 6 minutes of that video. So I have to pick the best 6 minutes. Anybody have any questions for me?
I was going to ask if you could do like mini lessons on like Google Sheets for me, or
Google
if
Sheet?
that's possible. Like, you know how you were working with Stephanie with the database thing?
Uh-huh.
Basically like that, but since I don't have most of that, I was figuring like shifting it more towards like Google Sheets or something.
Yes. Like, can you send me an email, Toby, give me like 4 or 5 topics that you would like to learn about Google Sheets? And then I can, when we get together, then I can go, okay, well, here's what you ask about, so I can show you those things. That way I kind of know what to be thinking about. If it's formulas or lookups or whatever, and you're doing a lot of that already. So give me some idea of what else you want to learn about it. And I will do my best to, you and I can create a Zoom and we can work through it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Anything else I can help somebody with?
When does Southern
Do what, Brecken? You cut out.
when does Southern Tech end?
May 19th.
Okay.
Okie dokie. All right, I've got a teacher's meeting I've got to be at in about 15 minutes. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm going to stop recording for today.